Monitoring of the screen, make sure this thing happens. Yeah.
Lisa Bonnet, Vicar of St Mary's Church, Horsham.
Thank you. So this prayer is attributed to St Francis of Assisi. Lord,
Lisa Bonnet, Vicar of St Mary's Church, Horsham.
Thank you. So this prayer is recorded coming back at us, aren't we? It's okay. Shall I keep going? Okay. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offense, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring harmony. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. Amen.
Thank you. I should have done this before we had the vicar's speech, but just for your advice, the fire exits are to the sides, and for those of you at the top, up at the top. Thank you. And could I ask you please to put your mobile phones on silent or to turn them off? And the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Thank you. Please be seated. I have apologies from 3 councillors, Councillors John Milne, James Wright and Alan Britton, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Martin Boffey, who was elected earlier in this month. I'm now going to call for nominations for Councillor David Skipp to be moved by Councillor Francis Haigh. Councillor Haigh, I do believe you wish to say something.
Thank you very much. I understand that one of the first things that the new chairman is hoping to do is to unite the council. So it's rather funny for us all to be here scattered across the large auditorium. So I'll do my best. I hope you can all hear me all right. It is a great pleasure and honour to propose Councillor David Skipp as the chairman of Horsham District Council for 2021-2022. Anyone who spends time with David in Horsham Town Centre will note that there is always someone who greets him by name. He is probably the most recognised person in the whole town. He is a natural-born leader, being respected and revered across the whole area by people from all walks of life. We have to ask ourselves, how did he attain this level of recognition? David was born in Cumberland, the son of a Baptist minister. The family moved to Shoreham in 1960, where he attended Worthing High School. He had a passion for sport, taking part in rugby and athletics for Sussex and playing cricket for a local club. I understand his attention wasn't quite so focused on lessons, but he did a lot of sport. In 1969, he began studying medicine at Charing Cross Hospital Medical School. There he met Helen and they married in 1974. David and Helen settled in Horsham, where David became a partner at Park Surgery. He served there for 30 years until his retirement, by which time he was a senior partner. His interest in forensics medicine led to an appointment as a police surgeon and then as deputy coroner for West Sussex for 20 years. David's concern for local healthcare led to his standing as a district councillor, and he has been in post since he was first elected to Roffey South in 2007. He has served on numerous committees, applying his finely honed analytical and questioning skills to the council's work. He was appointed the leader of the Liberal Democrat group in 2015. David has been appointed a governor of Collier's Sixth Form College in 2016 and has served as the chairman of governors for the last 3 years. David and Helen raised 4 children, and I gather 2 of them are here tonight, who attended local schools before progressing on to university. Helen has also continued her career, working both as a sexual health expert and serving for 34 years as a magistrate. Following the sad loss of their eldest child, Tim, the family set up a charity, the Timius Trust. As would be expected from a very keen sportsman, David threw himself into fundraising, completing 5 marathons, the 3 Peaks Challenge, and cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats. Now that his own playing days are behind him, he enjoys watching his grandchildren developing their skills of rugby and cricket. He tries not to be too vocal. I understand too that he also helped out with home education during the lockdown, hopefully encouraging the next generation of community leaders. Both David and Helen are committed members of the local Baptist church. During lockdown, they have generously given their time and energy to help with the vaccination programme at Christ Hospital. In his spare time, if he has any left, David enjoys wine tasting, bird watching, travelling when possible, and theatre. As someone who has dedicated his life and wisdom to his community, generously sharing his time and his talents to make the world a better place, I can think of no one more suitable to be the chairman of this council. I trust that you will all agree and support him with this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Claire Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a real pleasure for me to propose or second David as Chairman of the Council for this year. I've had some notes about him from his daughter Jo, so please bear with me while I tell you a few things about him which you may not already know. David fell in love with his wife Helen over a cadaver, very romantic. Through thick and thin, they've supported each other and make a formidable team. He's dad to Tim, who tragically, as you heard, died in an accident in Australia, Jo, Ben and Beth, and is a devoted granddad to Charlie, George, Tom, Isla, Beatrix and Wilf. He's famous for eating thirds of puddings and stealing chocolate from Nana's stash. Following Tim's death, aged 23, as you heard already, David and Helen set up the Timius Trust as they wanted a lasting legacy to create something positive. This trust provides travel bursaries to young people traveling around the world to take part in service to others. They've raised over £200,000, which is a huge achievement. As you all already heard, his charity efforts are incredible. Those 5 London marathons, those 3 Peak challenges, and his cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats. David was a well-loved GP at Park Surgery, as well as being a police surgeon and coroner. He loves bird watching and often takes his grandchildren for walks in the forests with bags of rations from them all. Common theme, according to Jo, is his love of food, especially sweet things, but he's not a good cook. Apparently, whenever he had to cook for his own children, he cooked sausages or his own special recipe of minced beef cooked in water. She says it was revolting. David's an avid rugby fan. He played for Wasps in his youth and now watches his grandkids at Horsham Rugby Club. When England are playing in the Six Nations, Joe tells me he becomes increasingly loud and passionate, shouting at the TV, especially when England are playing Wales. He's also a talented guitar and piano player and dabbles on the harmonica. He loves 60s music, which I do, and it can often be heard strumming tunes on his guitar. He's also a keen gardener and grows veg every summer. David is a man who's always served others, whether at home with his family, at work as a doctor, at his church as a deacon, and as a friend to many, and now serving the people of Horsham as a councillor. He's humble and kind and has no idea how well loved he is and respected. His family are very proud of him. He's had to face the most heartbreaking of times, but did so with such grace and dignity. Whilst David and I are not in the same political party, my group had no hesitation in suggesting him as chairman of the council. I know he will continue to serve us all well and will do a fantastic job as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I see no hands raised, so slightly out of sync as I forgot to do this. This is my leaving speech, but it's only less than a minute, so please bear with me. It's been an honour to be chairman this last municipal year, and it's certainly been different to any other. The pandemic has caused misery and distress to many in the country and abroad, but slowly we appear to be on the road to recovery now. The main role of chairman is to visit events, meet people, and be seen across the 204 square miles that make up our district. I haven't been able to do as much as I would have hoped, but I have attended 3 memorial services, 2 civic services, one of which was mine, being held in Horsham, and sadly attended by very few councillors, opened a few events in town, a new piece of play equipment in the park, and my last engagement was to reopen the newly renovated Sussex Barn pub, the only pub in Holbrook. A restrictive year, but I've been lucky enough to act as consort to my husband when he was chairman, and have been to many of the events with him. I wish the incoming chairman all the best for his year of office and hope he gets out and joins the other members of the chain gang celebrating civic events. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that Councillor David Skipp should be the chairman of the council for the coming municipal year. Are you all agreed? Councillor Skipp, you have been duly elected chairman of the council for the coming municipal year. Once you have signed your declaration of acceptance of office and taken the chain of office, I will relinquish my position and the vice chairman will take the chair for the next item.
Talk about Napoleon putting on his own crown. No one's allowed to touch it, I'm afraid.
Oh, I know.
So there you go. How's that?
That's better.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your appreciation there. It's been a very strange year, and I would just like to say that at this juncture, my thanks, and I'm sure our thanks, go to the officers and the staff here at the Capitol who've organised this annual meeting. We've tried to adhere to the government guidelines, and I think everybody has made a great attempt at that. But thank you for coming, because it's the first meeting we've had in person for at least a year. I'm greatly honoured to have been elected chairman of Horsham District Council for the coming civic year 21-22. 2020 was a grim year for many residents in this district because of the pandemic. Some were feeling and still are feeling isolated. Others are suffering from depression and anxiety, and others are grieving from the loss of loved ones. It has been for many a hard year. However, there is hope of recovery as we follow the roadmap out of lockdown. And I suppose this is my message. Hope that volunteer groups, caring organisations, and indeed this council can work in partnership to restore and rebuild shattered lives. Hope for renewal of the high streets and businesses and consequent employment opportunities. Hope for increasing care and protection of our environment. Hope that 2021 can be a positive force for individuals, communities, and indeed the district council. I look forward to representing this council at official functions, but also travelling around the district to meet more of the people who live and serve their communities in what I consider to be one of the most beautiful areas in this country. Now, as you heard from Councillor Burgess, this past year has been a frustrating and trying time for the chairman of the district. Karen has, however, represented this council at a number of occasions, particularly with the British Legion at wreath laying or flag raising in the Carfax. She was determined to show that Horsham district did not forget those who served and died in conflict. And even though many members of the public could not attend because of COVID-19, she was determined that we would have a presence in the Carfax at that time. And I know that Karen, as chairman, would have wished to represent the council at many more occasions. But her recent engagements have indicated that perhaps we are moving out of lockdown. I would therefore like to move on behalf of this council that we express our grateful thanks to the retiring chairman, Councillor Karen Burgess, for her service as chairman of the council during the municipal year 2020-21. Are you all agreed? Thank you. Item 4 is the appointment of the vice chairman. I'd like to call for nominations, please. I think Kate has been moved by Councillor Paul Clark. Is that correct? Oh, I must present the bag. So nomination of Councillor Kate Rowbottom is moved by Councillor Paul Clark. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roger Knoll, thank you. Are there any other nominations? It's been moved and seconded that Councillor Kate Rowbottom should be the vice chairman of the council for the coming municipal year. Are you all agreed? Thank you. Well done. Councillor Rowbottom, you've been duly elected vice chairman of the council for the coming municipal year. Once you have signed your declaration of acceptance of office, you may take up the badge of office. I believe that Councillor Rowbottom will say a few words. Is that
Will I?
correct?
Sorry, I didn't know I was meant to say a few words, but thank you very much. It's all happened very, very quickly, and I'm still feeling a little bit shocked. Thank you for having the faith to let me do it again so quickly, which was quite amazing. But I think I let myself in for it, because when I was here, or not here, but when I was in this position before, when I was returning, I did say how much I'd enjoyed it and what fun it had been. And I did get a bit over enthusiastic. So I sort of rather landed myself in it when they needed a replacement for the lovely Lynn, who's taking on bigger things, the poison chalice. But I wish her well with that. So thank you very much for having the faith of voting me in again. Many thanks.
Thank you. Item 5 are announcements from the chairman or the chief executive. I have none, but I have no doubt the chief executive wishes to say something.
Thank you, Chairman. The next item on the agenda is the election of a new leader of council following Councillor Dawes' decision to stand down after 10 years. I couldn't let that occasion pass without taking this opportunity to thank Ray on behalf of the officers for his clarity of vision and support over the years. The real test of any leader is whether the organisation they lead is stronger after their stewardship than it was when they took the reins. It's undoubtedly the case that the council is now in a much better position than when you started, even after a global pandemic. That is in no short measure down to your leadership. When I came to Horsham 3 years ago, it was clear from the offset that Ray set high standards which he expected to be met. He was challenging but fair, knew what he wanted but would listen. I've worked with a number of different leaders in various organisations, and Ray ranks among the best. The only thing I would change, Ray, is that I wish you'd been wrong on more occasions, because it's very disconcerting for a chief executive when his leader gets it right most of the time. I wish you and Denise well, and hope that you enjoy the extra time you will have in your hands now that you've stepped down, and it's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. So we come to the election of the leader of the council. The chairman is going to call for nominations. I see a hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to nominate Councillor Paul Clark.
Thank you. A seconder?
Yes, I would like to second Paul Clark.
All right. Are there any other nominations? No. In that case, it's been moved and seconded that Councillor Paul Clark should be the leader of the council. Are you all agreed? I'd like to ask Councillor Clark to come on stage and announce changes to his cabinet and say a few words.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I announce changes to the cabinet and go through the cabinet details, I'd very much like to hand over to my colleague Philip Circus, who also on behalf of councillors has a couple of words to say about our outgoing leader, Ray Daw. I'll hand over to Philip. Let him.
Thank you very much, Leader. We're going to have to get used to saying that. Ray always used to say to me, whenever he wanted me to give a speech, he said, throw in some Churchill quote. And I racked my brains this afternoon to think what would be an appropriate Churchill quote. And all I could think of was blood, sweat, toil, and tears. But then I thought, know, this is one day when we can forget about working on the district plan. Thank you very much. Thank you. There'll be enough time in the future. In fact, we've spent a long time trying to work out who had the longest experience of working with Ray, and we're still none the wiser. But I'm certainly one of the longest. And I actually sat down and I worked out in 28 years, if I include time on the county council. In that time, I've known 8 council leaders, not here just, but in my experience in Surrey. And therefore, I think I can say with a reasonable amount of confidence that Ray has been an outstanding leader, one of the very best, in my view. And he's had 10 years of achievement, despite one of the most challenging 10 years in local government. It's been a very challenging time, not just with COVID, but also with local government finance, which we forget. The government has been putting the screws on local government finance for quite some years now. And Ray has had to deal with that situation, moving to a position where we have to raise most, if not all, of our income otherwise than from government grant. Now, the officers gave me a set of comments about, they did some research and they looked back on 10 years. I have to say, if you don't mind, Chief Executive, it did have slightly the air of a Times obituary, which is not quite the tone we want, because I think with such experience and commitment to the council, I for one, and I'm sure many of you will feel, that we want his expertise to remain part of our deliberations. We want him to continue to being an important part of the work that we do as a council. But amongst those achievements over the years, apart from managing our finances successfully, whilst government grant has been reduced, and we've had the problems of COVID, is of course the development of the new Bridge Leisure Centre, the 8 million new car park at Peary's Place, the development of the new Waitrose and John Lewis site, and the celebrations. Jonathan did a splendid job with the Year of Culture, but with great support, of course, from Ray as leader. He gave me great support as we worked towards alternate weekly waste collections, which has had a profound effect on our recycling rate, putting us into 59th position in the country, with the very real prospect that we shall be in the top 10 when we introduce food waste collections. And of course, during that time, we have remained identified as one of the best places in the UK to live. Our crime rate has been the lowest. Perhaps Trish can tell me whether it's still the lowest in West Sussex. Just a few biographical details. He came in May, he joined at the same time as I did in 2007, became deputy leader and cabinet member for performance and delivery in January 2010, and continued as this when the name was changed to Efficiency and Resources in June 2011. And he became leader in May 2012. asked myself, what marks Ray out? Why do I say that he has been an outstanding leader? Well, partly the reason is it's not just a comment from me. I know from and other cabinet members will know this because we all sit on county-wide bodies, how highly regarded Ray has been in terms of the leaders right across West Sussex. I know from the comments I've received that he's held in high esteem right across the county, and that boosts our reputation as a council. And also, he has had the high respect of all of us who've served in his cabinet, and as you will have judged this evening, from the staff, from all the staff, and from the senior officers. Because that working together between the cabinet and senior officers and the staff is absolutely vital to a successful council. And one of the reasons why I believe we've been a successful council is because of the high respect that officers have had for Ray. Ray, as I've said, I hope will continue to play an important part in the work of the council. It will be a shame if we lose his commitment and his wisdom. Now, you know, there's a cliche which seems to come to mind no matter how much you try to put it out of your mind: a hard act to follow. It's a cliche, and therefore, like, I don't know about you, but I tend to try and avoid cliches. The trouble with that cliche is that in this case, it is absolutely true and reflects precisely the position. He will be a hard act to follow. So what I'm going to say to you is, I hope you'll join me in saying thank you to Ray for his years of service, I believe outstanding years of service to Horsham District Council and the community, the wider community that we seek to serve, and to wish him well for the future. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Philip, for those fine words, and thanking Ray for his service. As you say, a very hard act to follow. One can do but one's best. In terms of the cabinet, I've decided to make some changes to the cabinet structures in place and to expand the number of cabinet posts. The reason for this is to spread the workload on cabinet members and to open up member opportunities. This applies particularly to the portfolio covering community well-being, housing and public protection, quite a mouthful. And I've uncoupled the finance and economic development portfolios once more, as they were in the past. I've decided to reinstate the role of cabinet member for the town, and in addition added the communications role and car parks to that portfolio, as car parks, at least the multi-stories, are mostly in the town. Putting more emphasis on town matters is a very sensible thing, in my opinion, a sensible thing to do, as the legacy of COVID will continue to haunt us for some time to come. And that shadow will still remain. The town and its structures, the businesses and the other core activities will need closer focus and work over the next few years to recover from the past events of the past 14 months or so. We also need to improve our communication strategies and methods to better communicate with our residents, both in the town and across the district as a whole. That's why I've added this activity to my town members and deputy leaders' responsibilities. Therefore, my cabinet members will be Horsham Town Parking and Communications, and deputy leader, my deputy, will be Tony Hogburn. Community and Wellbeing will be under Councillor Claire Vickers. Housing and Public Protection will be under Councillor Tricia Houghton. Environment, Waste, Recycling and Cleansing will be under Councillor Philip Circus. Finance and Assets will be Richard Landoyu. Leisure and Culture will be for Roger Noel. The Local Economy will be my councillor Chris Brown. And finally, Planning and Development will be under Councillor Lynn Lambert, and I wish her all the luck in the world. And I wish all my cabinet members good fortune, because we're going to have a lot of work to do, and we're going to have to get out of this COVID mess and move forward. And I thank you all for your support and your help. Thank you.
Stay there if you like, yeah. Items 7 to 12, constitution and appointments of committees and policy development advisory groups. I'm going to suggest that we take agenda items 7 to 12 together. Nominations from the group leaders for the membership of committees and policy development advisory groups are as shown in the circulated schedule, which I'm sure you've all got, or you should have had given to you. Please note the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 requires ordinary committees to be politically balanced in proportion to the number of seats held by each political party, unless the council decides otherwise without objection. I therefore call on Councillor Paul Clark to move the appointment of the committees, policy development advisory groups, and members to serve on the joint committee as listed at items 7 and items 9 to 12 on the agenda for the coming municipal year.
Thank you, Chairman. I move that in accordance with section 17(1) of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, and the Planning and Employment Committees are constituted on the basis set out in items 9 and 10B on the agenda rather than political balance, and the committees, policy development advisory groups, and members to serve on the joint committee are appointed as shown in the list circulated.
Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Haig. Thank you. Are you all agreed? Thank you. I call upon, and this is item 13, I call upon Councillor Paul Clark to move the programme and time of ordinary council meetings for the coming municipal year.
I move that A, the programme of ordinary council meetings for the coming year should be shown on the agenda, and that B, ordinary council meetings for the coming municipal year should commence at 6 p.m.
Is this seconded by Councillor Hay? Thank you. Are you all agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Committee chairman and vice chairman will be appointed and times of meetings determined at the first meeting of each committee. Now that completes the formal business of the annual council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Clark. However, there will be a brief meeting of the audit committee, so I'd ask you to please remain seated for a few more minutes. And as far as the audit committee goes, do we have any nominations for the chairman of this committee?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Stuart Ritchie, who my experience outstanding in this role, and we are greatly benefited by his knowledge in this area, and I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there a seconder for that? No. Sorry, Stuart. Thank you very much indeed. So you are now appointed as chairman, Stuart. Would you like to take over for the vice chairman and agree your times of meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. The next item is to appoint a vice chairman. I nominate Councillor Blackwell. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. And all members of the audit committee in favour? Thank you very much. The final item, well, it's not quite the final item, I'm going to add an extra one to the agenda, is we need to agree the time of the meetings for the year. I propose we continue with 5:30, which is our existing start time for meetings. All members of the Audit Committee in agreement? Thank you. I just want to note that Councillor Landeroo and Councillor Beavis retire from the Audit Committee at the conclusion of this meeting. And I'd like to express my grateful thanks for their service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ritchie. And that genuinely is the end of this meeting. So thank you very much for coming. And it's good to be back. I look forward to more meetings in person. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gents, could I ask you to remain in your seats whilst the chairman and vice chairman leave the auditorium? Thank you. You're all free to leave now. I don't think I've seen so many councillors in one place for such a long time, so it's a nice change. But please maintain social distancing as you leave the auditorium.